4:30. According to my clock. Wait for the clock to tick over up on the screen. I'll call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the District of Tofino operates within the territory of the Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, Tla-o-qui-aht. Notice to attendees that the meeting is being video recorded and will be published in the District of Tofino channel. Notice to virtual attendees to sign up for public comment and question period using the Q&A function in Zoom. To register, participants are required to enter their full name, residential address, and the agenda item. Through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, pursuant to section 15 of the District of Tofino Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1229/2016 is amended. The January 2026 regular meeting be held electronically via Zoom and live broadcasted on the District of Tofino's channel, and that the facility provided for the public to watch and hear the meeting be located at Lakewood Sound Theatre, 380 Campbell Street in Tofino, BC. So no objection, that motion is carried. I do have an amendment for the agenda. And so I'll move to add 91K to the closed session. Second, Councilor Steer. Any comments? All in favor? Agenda is amended, and through the chair, through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that the January 2026 regular council agenda as amended be adopted. Objections, motion carries. That wasn't an objection. No. That was a.
Was that?
It's good. Yeah. The consent agenda. Not want to pull anything off the consent agenda. Then I will move from the chair through unanimous consent that item 4.1 to 4.4 of the consent agenda on the regular council meeting held January 2026 be approved and received. Seeing no objection, motion carried. And also through unanimous consent, if there are no objections, I'll move that the minutes of the regular council meeting held November 2025 be amended to include a resolution regarding next steps for advancing the concept plan for rebuilding the Tofino General Hospital at item 13.1, committee and external appointed verbal reports from council members, and that the minutes be adopted as amended. So no objection, that motion is carried. Mayor's report. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season, a great break. It's great to be back, and we came right back roaring in with an interesting meeting with Minister Len Kang, Minister of Tourism, Sports, Art, and Culture, whatever order those words are in. And it was wonderful. This is the first minister besides their very own. Sorry, just a moment. Besides our very own Minister Osborne, who has taken up our offer to come to Tofino in person, and it's wonderful to see Minister Kang and her staff here, and we were able to show our beautiful town once again, and to lobby for tourism, art, sports, and culture, you know. And so she will be meeting with Tourism Tofino Chamber of Commerce and Tla-o-qui-aht First Nation, and we'll be meeting again tomorrow. So it's a great opportunity to see the minister here in our town, first of many, hopefully. Public comment on agenda items. Ms. Larson, I'm going to give you a heads up to ask for an open call, and I do have a couple people signed up.
Thanks very much. There are currently a few members of the public in attendance over Zoom, so I will now do an open call for public comment. So if you are attending virtually via Zoom, you can ask, or you can enter your name in the Q&A function on Zoom. You'll just need to put your name, your residential address, and which agenda item you wish to make a comment on. And if you're in the public gallery and you didn't sign up for public comment, you can raise your hand and be added to the list. Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times, and no additional submissions.
Thank you, Ms. Session. First up, we have Yarmo. Please just say your full name, residential address, and the item, agenda item you speak. You wish to speak.
Yarmo Venalainen, 240 Campbell Street. I'm talking about the water, I believe 9.9.2.
And 9 point.
The correspondence from Peter Peck regarding the district growth policy and 30 First Street subdivision.
9.92.
9 point.
Oh, sorry, I have 9.92. I was looking.
Oh, wait,
Go ahead.
All right, I'll just do this in a few statements. The Tofino Master Water Plan, as enacted, prevents land from being built on for decades. That's it. Removing the right to build for that amount of time is akin to a lifetime. Okay, 40 years, 20 years, about the same. Even if the community can benefit, which is not clear, this causes a very small group of people, a dozen, maybe two, to bear the burden directly and excessively. The district has known about the water problem for decades. I checked the public record, I don't want to dwell into it. So it is not logical to attribute this to current circumstances, not defensible. Choosing to operate for 20 years without marginal extra water endangers the community. Fire. I know there's plans, but it nonetheless endangers. The population is growing approximately 5%, 3 or 5, which means 20 years from now, the population will have, any guesses? Tripled. The district plan is to have water 20 years from now, while the population tripled. Taken together, these conditions raise unresolved questions, property rights, lost value, absence of housing in a critical housing need. You can't build for those triple population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yarmo. Up next, we have Chris Neufeld.
I'm sorry, I'm mistaking that for record of attendance. I'm gonna defer to the district staff at this time. I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
Okay, super. Thank you. We have no delegations. We're moving on to correspondence. Moving on the list, we have correspondence 9.1 from Mr. Elmer Frank regarding a return of a family heirloom. And I'm gonna look to staff if there's a comment. Ms. Attendees, do you have a comment on this?
Thank you, Mayor Law. No comment on this. In the letter, it does indicate that the family heirloom is located on Point Park, and it's a heirloom that was built by Thomas' father. The request is to have that. So the appropriate action would be to send it to the council and request that to happen. So that's why the letter is coming.
Super. Well, to council, I don't actually have a written recommendation. It's pretty simple. Council, I can make the recommendation from the chair that staff be authorized to return the family heirloom to Mr. Elmer. Second by Councilor Steer. Any further comments? None. All in favor? None opposed, motion is carried. 9.2, correspondence from Mr. Peter Thick regarding limits to growth policy and 230 First Street subdivision. So I think this, I did request this letter be on the correspondence so the council can potentially discuss this. Background, of course, there that council made a motion in October, early October. The requested report to make a decision on this request for WAC. Mr. Pick has sent a letter again asking for an update, clarification. So here it is. So I'm going to open it up to council. We do not have a report. There is a report on the whole limits to growth coming at a following meeting, but I think it's appropriate that council have a chance to discuss this request potentially. So I can go down the table. I can start, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm sympathetic to their request. And I see it as a matter of timing. And as this was in process, a number of allocations for larger subdivisions allotted, and I believe that had they moved more quickly, or if it had been looked at the time, that this would have been granted as well. So I would definitely be supportive of this.
Good question. And I'm actually going to go up to Councillor Sloman, because I see your hand is up, and I'm going to try very hard not to ignore you up there on the screen. So go ahead, Councillor Sloman.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same as Councillor Anderson. I feel like they're kind of stuck in a little bit of a phase, whereas if they had subdivided a few months later, they would have been given a water allocation, as like some of the other developments that have gone through have. So I feel like it's not really fair to not give them a water allocation certificate. Yeah, I think that was all I had to say. Just let me check my notes for a quick second.
Take your time. Ask staff to turn up the volume. Is there a way to turn that volume up?
I don't have anything else to say. I just feel like it would be fair to give them a water certificate. I just feel like they're just caught in a weird spot because they were a little bit before the limits to growth policy. And so I feel supportive of giving them a certificate.
And just to clarify for those in attendance, there is sufficient water left in the limits to growth plan. However, it's not enough for the entire list of applicants. I'm going to go to the concern.
Yeah, I definitely am sympathetic to the situation of the letter writers. At the same time, I understand their frustration with the process. I'd like to acknowledge the hard work that staff have put into this and to answering questions and bringing information forward. Just acknowledging that, staff have been working really hard on this and that there's multiple circumstances contributing to some absences and whatnot. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Councillor Steer.
Thank you, through the chair. I am sympathetic to the letter writer's request. We have had this discussion before, and one of the questions that had come up at this point in time was how much allocation was left in and my understanding is there is water left at that time. I'm also cognizant of the fact that we have requested, and I believe we were coming forward from staff a report 27th of January. Wrong. But we will have further information regarding there. I am sympathetic to the request and the circumstance that they found themselves in.
I think probably one of the things maybe you can just hint at, and I maybe Councillor Sawyer, are you in favor of granting their request for a WAC now or delaying it until the limits to go? Because there's two things going on here. Just to maybe clarify this, the first question is the existing motion of council is to is to have a report back that allows for a decision. And so councillor has the option to change that motion and delay that to the limits to growth, or if there's enough support for Mr. Thick, knowing that we have water and everybody's read the letters and thought about it, council can make a deliberation as well. You don't have to give those where you're standing, but it would help.
Maybe I'll wait until I hear the rest
Okay.
of council. Before I make that.
Great, that's great.
Yeah, I have also read the numerous letters and I did meet with Stephen and Kathy Thick, so they could discuss the points in person and receive multiple follow-up emails after the fact. My understanding is we requested a report, not just with the intentions of the merit of this, but so that we can have a proper process going forward to treat all the requests fairly. Because right now, I don't know if we have a clear, it just seems a little convoluted the way that this has come through, and I would like to have clear direction so that future applicants can come through. I also do have lots of questions for clarity around the limits to growth and some of the aspects of this application that I would like to get into. And I think next week when staff are coming forward with the reports on limit to growth, as well as on this, might be a more appropriate time to dig into some of those things. As it stands, I'm not prepared to vote on this matter.
Councillor McMaster.
I'm similar to Councillor Thomas. I'm sympathetic to this case. I agree it's a unique case, but I am aware there's other people on the list, so it's a question is it more unique than the other people? Let's wait for the stuff.
Okay, maybe that's the first question then for council. I think there's there's councillors that are for granting a request, and there's other councils that would like to wait for the full limits to growth review to decide. So perhaps I'll look to council just for a general majority. Is council amenable to delaying this into the limits to growth and reviewing it with others, or is majority of council would like to deal with this? Yes, go ahead.
Just a question for clarity there. What you're saying is we previously made a motion to ask for a report from staff on this application.
That's right.
And staff have indicated that since they're doing the work on the next growth review, that would make the most sense to speak to that topic on January 27th.
According to staff.
According to staff. So we're not delaying it to that. We're just simply accepting the report when it will be delivered by staff that we previously requested.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but just to clarify that the conversation at council, I wasn't actually, I wasn't part of that. I reviewed the tape, and it was that the report would come back before, at least from council's discussion, would come back before the limits to growth review in December. And so this is in response to Mr. Thick's letter saying, why hasn't it come back? That was council's intention.
If I may make a response to that, like I said in my first comment, I'm sympathetic to the work that staff has done on this so far, and that there have been delays beyond their control. And so respecting the work of staff and the fact that it was a previous motion, I would still want to hear the report before making a decision and to respect due process, although I'm certainly sympathetic to their situation. It's just a difference of 1 week now, which is great.
And there is water left. So there you go. That's a good comment. Any other comments on this, Councillor Steer?
I think what I'm hearing from some of that almost majority of council, that there's to respect the work of staff, that we have been that we will be having further information in the LTG review and in a week's time to be able to make a more informed decision. At that point in time, I would support what I'm hearing from the other councillors.
And Councillor Sloman, do you have a comment on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Slay. Just so I understand, the opportunity to revisit this particular item would be available to us during that time period as well.
That's right, and my understanding from staff is that there is sufficient water now to, if council were to decide to grant a whack to Mr. Thick as he had requested, could do it now, and I suppose that my understanding is that that will still be available in the at the time of next committee of the whole.
To the chair. Currently there's 2.37 cubic meters left. Our tracker on our website is current. We have a number of building permits in review right now. Most of them are waiting on various studies or files from the applicants. So there's no file that is intending to be advanced in the coming few days. But I can't speak to what we might receive early next week. So there's a slim chance that perhaps some of that water will be used, but not the full 2.7 to my knowledge. Based on our calculations, each of these parcels, because I'm assuming they want to whack for just 2 of the 3 parcels because they sold 1, would amount to 0.58 cubic meters per parcel. So 1.16.
0.58, is that for they were each available to have a suite as well?
If each has a suite, then that'd be an additional 0.24.
Oh, looking at 0.8 something. 0.3. Yeah, so I think the council's comment, one of the concerns I had was that it appeared from deliberation of the motion that council wished to have the ability to make a decision. And the concern I had was this was delayed, then there would be water left to make a decision. But it sounds like at this moment that if we include this in the limits to growth review, then there would still be enough water to grant Mr. Thick's request if council so chooses to at that time. Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, I appreciate the information presented by staff, and I was appreciated the last part of Councillor Steer's comment that we could address it at the next meeting, because that would be important to me. I still would prefer to issue, though, if we could make a motion to issue a whack today, because I do feel like there is a little bit of a risk within the next week that some of those people in line that, in my opinion, came after this applicant. I would still prefer to go the other way, but I respect the majority decision. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sloan. It sounds to me, if I was to look, and I haven't spoken, but I'm gonna look. It sounds to me, and I'm gonna go around one more time, that the majority of council are aiming at waiting until next committee of the whole 27th, and we'll review this and make a decision. That's what it sounds like to me. But I'm looking around. Councillor Steer, you're kind of on the fence.
Yeah, I mean, the issue being, as has been articulated, in terms of the slim chance so that is a risk that I understand, but I'll go with the majority. My fear is, sorry to interject, if that we were to make a motion right now to grant that whack, it has a possibility of being defeated, from what I'm hearing from the majority of people. So that would be another risk as well. So I think it would be a more potential for that success. Further information on 27th.
Okay, I'm yeah, just having spoken, I'm actually in favor from all the information that I have and discussions with the applicant. I am leaning in favor of supporting the WAC, noting that it's a unique situation, it's subdivision. It seems to be a matter of timing, residential. So I'm in favor. So, but I'm going to go over to Councillor Anderson maybe for final comment.
Yeah, I'm fine with waiting a little bit. I would have preferred to have sort of to be able to do that now, but I'm hearing from all the council and seeing that it's within a week away that we'll be looking at that. Want to make sure we give them an answer at that, because they have been waiting quite a while. And a deteriorated situation.
It is.
For later stuff.
All right, it sounds like, sounds like the bare majority of council wants to wait, so that's what I. Councilor Steer, last word?
If I'm just counting the numbers in my head. Yeah.
I think if we, we don't want to have a split vote either, but, Ms. Atiana?
I don't know if this will help at all. The suggestion that I made at the meeting where the letter first came forward to refer it to staff was to have consistency compared to, because there was a previous request that came and it was referred to staff and we were able to report back. But unfortunately, competing priorities prevented us from getting back, quickly to council. And you've indicated this is a community situation with the water amount going down. Staff will take council's direction today if there's a desire to approve the WAC, and we will incorporate today's decision into the 27th report and discuss how that decision and future decisions can be made if those types of requests come forward. So it will still be useful in preparing, amendments or proposed amendments to the policy if council decides to make a decision today, versus waiting until next Tuesday. We have a couple of days before the agenda is, so we can take council's direction either way and incorporate it if that's helpful. And so it was my suggestion that we refer it to staff to have consistency in terms of council making a decision on whether to approve the WAC in circumstances like this. So unfortunately it has taken quite a bit of time for us to get back to council.
Okay, maybe that's a good question. I mean, there is a risk, in the next little bit that there's not going to be quite enough water to actually give council the ability to grant this. It is possible, probably remote. But the other question is, it sounds like that their majority of council are in favor of giving a WAC. And so the question really is really about, is there something that would change council's mind in the next week, or that we could simply make a motion and council would pass it for WAC, or is there, is there potential for those who are against giving a WAC or not in favor of that? Would they change their mind if the full report was coming? So maybe I'll look to Councillor Thomas.
I'm not saying I'm in favor or I'm not in favor of it. I'm just saying that for transparency, I do have a number of questions related to this that I would prefer an opportunity to discuss with staff in a manner that makes those concerns addressed publicly. I know some of these concerns I've brought forward with the applicant, and maybe I've had private conversations with them, but that's not fair I don't think, for us to sit here and make a decision on private conversations and emails is a very transparent way of doing it for the public. I would not feel really comfortable with making a vote on the matter at this time. And that's not to say that I'm against WAC in principle or that I would be voting in one way or the other. It's just, I don't feel I have enough information. And I don't think that enough information has been made public so that everybody else who might be in a similar position in the future can feel confident going forward.
Fair point for clarity. Yes.
Yeah, my point is similar, that although I'm certainly sympathetic to the applicants and as Councillor Thomas said, not against it, it's that I have been waiting for the report from staff to gain further information and to have further deliberation with council with staff's input. And everyone's awesome. I don't know if Josh is prepared to step down and deliver a full report today on anything. So I wouldn't want to put people in a position where we're all of a sudden having this big discussion and asking for unprepared information or for something that is supposed to be coming to us next week that we had decided is what we were going to go with.
Okay, well then let's then we can make a motion, because we have a motion to ask for a report. It seems before that we can leave it as is, bundle it in, and let, I'm sure the applicant, we get the applicant a response that council will address the request committee of the whole 2027. Probably doesn't need a motion, but we're going to do that. Okay, Councillor Sloman, are you okay with that?
I actually couldn't hear you.
Oh, you couldn't hear me?
No.
Was it my end or?
Yeah, it was just like as you kind of turned your head, I lost your audio a bit.
Okay, we're just, I think what we're gonna do is we're not gonna make a motion, but we're going to address this question at the committee of the whole on 2027 with an aim to make a decision on the request.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, if there's no further comments on that, we're gonna move on. We have 9.3 correspondence from BC Geographical Names Office, Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport regarding request for comment. And it's 3 Tla-o-qui-aht names. And I do have a draft resolution here. I'm going to open it up to council. Go ahead.
I've just got a comment in response to correspondence we've received from people regarding the name changes and potential concerns about what that would mean. And I'd like to point out that while the beach name is proposed to be changed, the street name, I believe, would stay the same. Is that?
That's a good question. Are you referring to correspondence we've received? Or
Yes.
For this particular one?
There was a letter, it's not on our correspondence, but there was a letter sent to mayor and council from, I received one from a member of the public regarding this topic.
No, this letter on the agenda just refers to geographical names and not street names, so.
Yeah.
It's a different argument once we're in the street name.
So then follow up with that clarity. I feel confident that public safety wouldn't be impacted by the change of the beach names, although there may be an adjustment period. We welcome hundreds of new residents every year who come here seasonally, and they're learning every name for the first time anyways. And, so they're learning, whether it's Tonquin or Chestermans or Cox Bay. So they're just simply going to be learning a new name, and for long-term residents who've been here for more years, they'll have that time to also learn a new name, and I think public safety will be all right.
Councillor Sloman.
Yeah, thank you. I think my concerns were I really do support the renaming. My issue is with safety because, as you know, my husband's a float plane pilot, and I know they use places like, and I haven't spoken with him about this, so I don't have clarity on it, but I know that they use references like lone cone inbound and geographical features like that. So I do have a bit of concern about, especially like Kennedy Lake and that, and I'm just wondering about how I can feel more comfortable about air traffic safety when using these points as like references for navigation. I don't know if maybe Councillor Steer would have some information on that with his, because of his background in Coast Guard. But those are my concerns, but in general, I do support the renaming.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask Councillor Steer to respond.
Yeah, to a certain degree, and you may have seen on the distribution list in terms of the feedback, Canadian Coast Guard was one of the listed. We have historically there have been changes to place names on nautical charts as well as on provincial maps, and that generally has not incurred any safety issues related to I can only speak from the marine and I can't speak to the air side of things. That has not posed a problem because those often those pieces of information are also detailed in the information process. So when we go through a name change on a nautical chart, that's clearly indicated to our rescue center, certainly to those of us in the response area. So it's never been a concern from there are a number of local names in our geographical area that have, if you talk to a whale watching company, they're going to give you 5 different whale watching companies. They're going to give you 5 different place names. So we would always ask for a Latin long. So from a safety perspective, I'm comfortable with the request. We've had many of these changes in our particular geographical area over the years, and it has not posed a safety risk at this time. I cannot speak to the inland or to the aeronautical side on that.
Okay, Councillor Sawyer.
Just to comment on Councillor Steer's comments, thinking about larger place name changes and Haida Gwaii and how synonymous that is with the place and the map location. Everyone knows where Haida Gwaii is, but you know, within my lifetime, within my school time, it was Queen Charlotte Islands, and that was what seemed like a monumental change, and now everyone knows it is Haida Gwaii. So I think we could move forward quickly with these.
Great. Councillor Thomas.
I was just gonna echo Councillor Steer's comments from the nautical side of things. Obviously, my husband works in whale watching, and lots of our friends and people we care about do, and they have multiple names for different areas, and it depends on who you talk to, and there's no concerns with safety in any sort of sense of that. So I don't think any of safety concerns would be a reason to, and I'd be in favor of us putting our endorsement behind this council.
And I don't think, maybe Councillor Sloman, you've got a little more insight than I do into this, but there'd be nothing preventing somebody from saying Kennedy Lake, also known as Hoopkamin or Hoopkamin Lake on there. So, yeah. Good. A good reminder too, you know, I think about this, I think that we're not renaming necessarily. It's these place names have been named these things for millennia. And it's only fairly recently that they were renamed. So that's my call.
Okay, so I have a draft here. It sounds like good support. So from the chair, I'll move that the District of Tofino Council supports the proposed changes to the official names of the northern portion of Chetham Beach to Nana, Kennedy Lake to Hoopkamin, and Mears Island to One Chus.
Don't actually have the phonetic pronounces in front of me, but that's about as close as I can get.
Not just Hilfus. Okay. And that staff be directed to confirm the support to the BC Geographical Names Office before the deadline of March 6th, 2026. Seconder. Right, Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. It's like in the old days when correspondence took an hour. We are moving on to 9.4, correspondence from the Office of the Premier, Honors and Awards Secretariat. We have the BC Honors call for nomination. Do we have any comments from council? Yeah. 9.5, correspondence from Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, BC Chapter, Coast Environment Law regarding request for council support. And I've asked Councillor Steer to give a brief comment on this.
Yeah, and this is regarding the Marine Coastal Strategy. This was a process where many stakeholders were consulted, First Nations, many municipalities, local governments, to have their input onto this strategy. It's been well received, well respected. AVICC endorsed the resolution. UBCM has endorsed the resolution regarding support of the strategy, and this letter of request is basically to ask the BC government to enshrine it in law, because at this point in time it is not in that legislative framework. So I'm very much in support of the letter to forward on, and I think there is a draft letter that was associated with the correspondence. I can here. And sure staff. Do you have it there? Yeah, there is a motion that is associated with the request. You want me to?
Just gonna look to staff
Yeah.
or look to council. The council, is everybody amenable to this motion? Yes? Okay, see nods all around.
I don't need to read it. That we're doing.
We can make a motion to move that council support the letters as presented.
I'll make that. Is that okay?
Looking up to Ms. Larson for corporate officer advice.
Thank you, Mary Law. I think if you want to provide a certified resolution in support of the initiative, then having this motion as they've drafted and included in the agenda is the template that they've suggested. However, I think also a resolution just with a high level support of the initiative, kind of summarizing it, like you said, could be used as well. We just wouldn't send this specifically, this draft motion that they provided specifically to them.
Your phone, your motion.
Yeah, I'm certainly that's probably the best path forward. Yeah. Okay, so I can move in the direction that was given there. Do I have to, is there a proper wordsmithing that would be best for this, or?
I think if council endorses this motion, draft motion as they've provided in the agenda, and resolves to support the request by using this motion, I can definitely take that back and wordsmith it. That's not good.
I'll move that we endorse the draft motion provided and for the coastal marine strategy.
Could even say an agenda item 9.5.
And agenda item 9.5.
That's sufficient? Seconder? Councilor Thomas, any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion. Okay, 9.6, correspondence from the City of Port Alberni to Ministry of Transportation and Transit regarding requested safety improvements to Cathedral Road. Any comments from council? And then moving on, correspondence from Canadian Bottled Water Association regarding single-use item regulation bylaw. Comments from council? Moving on. Presentations reports. We have 10.1 zoning amendment, 691 industrial way. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My first presentation of the evening is regarding the zoning amendment for 691 Industrial Way. So this is a permission to proceed meeting. The overview is that the applicant is seeking a permanent change of use, and this will accommodate the use of exterior service areas as is currently accommodated by the temporary use permit. And we just want to formalize or explore formalizing the use via the zoning amendment. So the temporary use permit has served as a bridge to permanent change. For those of you who have not been to the Tofino Brewery, these photos represent the front and the rear patios in question. As you can see, there's an Airstream which currently houses the TOP for the food vendor on site. And then there are picnic tables under that tent, and then the rear seating in the back, which is in conformance with the site plan that was provided for the TOP. So this application will consist, if approved to proceed, will involve 3 fundamental changes. First and foremost, we'll be looking at redefining accessory lounge. Accessory lounge was brought into the zoning bylaw via a previous amendment that the brewery had gone through to accommodate the brewery lounge in itself, which was then converted to brewery lounge. And now I'm looking at re-exploring the use of accessory lounge as it best sort of accommodates a more generalized use of space in the industrial zone for manufacturing and industrial uses that want to benefit from ancillary use. Currently, the brewery is the only zone or the only business within the zone that is benefiting from that lounge permission. So it will not affect other businesses currently. The second piece of this is to replace that burrito lounge with the accessory lounge piece definition. And then the third is to apply a conditional limit on use. So point of discussion or consideration is whether or not to apply that at a site level, site specific level, or a zone wide application. Some highlights from the preliminary review include just a general alignment with the broad OCP land use and growth objectives. It also aligns with specific land use policy for the industrial way land use designation. It supports local economic viability by accommodating small business and their ability to adapt and be flexible to the changing needs of their business. Formalizes, as I mentioned, that temporary, the permanent change of use. So it's currently accommodated by the TUP, just set to expire this year. Under that TUP, and since the the temporary expanded service area authorization was granted, there was no history of complaint or enforcement on the property in regards to the use. And as this is primarily just a text amendment, there's no proposed development or building that would trigger any considerations of implications for servicing or infrastructure housing requirements. So as I mentioned, there are a few points for consideration. First and foremost, the occupancy. So this was a major focus of previous zoning amendments and discussion around the use of the space. What we'd be looking to do is sort of shift the focus of that management over to the liquor, the LCRB, as well as Island Health for situations in which there's kitchens or service areas that are regulated by Island Health. In this case, Island Health is not involved, but it would be sort of right now pivoting from what we're currently doing, and that is managing the number of seats via the zoning, to relying on those external organizations to regulate as per their mandate. There are limiting factors that are at play that first and foremost being the parking. So we would be looking at applying the parking provision from an area specific lens versus a seating lens, just given the mixed use of the property. And if we're sort of pivoting our approach to regulating via area, it would be a more appropriate measure for determining the parking values. But this would require, but with further evaluation, we could determine exactly how much parking would be provided, how much would be required if council wishes to see that. The big piece of this is the 10% cap on ancillary use. And as I mentioned, this could be applied at a site-specific level or a zone-wide. Staff do recommend that we approach it from a site-specific level at this juncture, as there would be significant implications for other businesses, et cetera, current property owners that we want to fully evaluate through separate rezonings or applications that might be a very large undertaking in the context of this application. But that decision will dictate staff's recommendation on whether or not to hold public hearings. So if council wishes to weigh in on that 10% provision, if you're inclined to go towards a zone wide, staff do recommend a public hearing to ensure there's adequate consultation. If we're looking at a site specific, staff recommend to waive the public hearing as it is in alignment with, as I mentioned, the OCP as well as land use designation. So that said, prepared one recommendation for you, but I have prepared alternative recommendations should council wish to move forward with conditions in that we focus on a site specific or zone wide. And at this point, I'd love to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Questions for clarity from council? Mr. Anderson.
Sorry, you lost me about the 10% cap on what?
Sure. Oh, sorry. So thank you for the question through the chair. So we would be looking at applying a 10% cap on ancillary uses as it relates to the total lot area. So there's a distinction between a lot area and a gross floor area in that it accommodates for industrial uses that aren't necessarily within buildings or structures. So it would limit the amount of ancillary use that would apply to the subject property. In this case, they've provided a site plan and they're currently sitting at about 9%. And so they're already at their max. So it serves as a bit of an example of sort of the land use, sort of the configuration of what an industrial lot would look like operating with that 10%. So something for consideration is, if we were to look at it zone-wide, the implications for, say, like a lot that has strata units, there could be, conflicting situations in which each lot would maybe currently be using that 10% in its entirety. So we want to fully evaluate these specific situations, as well as lots that are leased out, ensuring that it would be under the purview of a landlord or a property owner and to dictate how much space each lot would be granted. But again, that's why I think that the site-specific approach at this point is the most appropriate.
Can I just follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
An ancillary use would be the residential uses or the food uses. Or is there more to ancillary use than that?
Thank you for the question, through the chair. So ancillary use would refer to anything that is outside of the definition of industrial and manufacturing, warehousing, things. This is a great example, the lounge being an ancillary use to the actual production and warehousing and manufacturing of the beer. In other areas where it could be applied would be, say, the bakery, in that it would allow that bakery to, which is what, for those who have been to Summit, if they were to put, chairs in the front, it would be a little sort of a small service area that would allow them to accommodate customers, knowing that their primary function is the wholesaling in the back.
Question for clarity. We have a recommendation here in front of us. Are you suggesting that we add on to that recommendation? Sounds like site specific is the more way to go, but we can just suffice with this recommendation.
Thank you for the question. Sure. So I wasn't sure about process. I wanted to be prepared with that condition if it needed to be formalized. I can take council's direction at this point. If permission to proceed is granted, I can move forward with the application with the site-specific approach in mind. I'm not sure, maybe I'll look to Corporate Services to see if that motion needs to be formalized. I have come prepared with that in case. It's Nyla or Jamie.
I can answer, Jill. And I think, and Nyla can correct me if I'm wrong, but typically when I've seen permission to proceed reports come, they have this sort of high level recommendation that staff be authorized to proceed with further review of the zoning amendment application without getting into necessarily very prescriptive information within that recommendation. Typically it's the result of the discussion and direction that sort of come from these meetings. It's taken away into that more high level resolution, but perhaps the Director of Community Services who's worked in that department for a while might know otherwise.
Thanks. Through the chair. Generally, when we're looking to waive public hearings, we do it for first reading. Actually, for first reading happens so that we can chat with it. So if you have a second recommendation to waive public hearing, because this type's really, I'd probably introduce that to council since it's a recommendation. I'm assuming you have.
So thank you for the point of clarity. So I do have a motion for the public hearing waiver. So if council is leaning more towards site specific, then I do have a recommendation prepared for the public hearing waiver as well. It'd be the appropriate time to do it.
Okay, and just one further question for clarity. These two separate motions you're proposing or one motion with that and that. Okay, I see two over there. Okay, okay. Council, does anybody have any? Councilor Sloman, you have a question for clarity, and you can also have a comment because I think we're getting to the end. I could have a comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this has already been answered, but I'm just having a little trouble hearing. So is my understanding that like this 691 Industrial Way would get the 10% ancillary use set up? And is that the same for the other ones if we didn't look at it at site specific?
Thank you for the
Or would it-
question.
Carry on for clarity. Councilor Spellman.
No, that was my question. Like, would the 10% be for the 691 Industrial Way and other properties up Industrial Way if we didn't look at it site specific, or would they all get the 10, like, would they all get the 10%, or would this only be the one? Maybe I just answered my question.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So the 10%, so this is the point of discussion, is whether or not we would like to apply it to the site specific. So it would be applied to the zone as a condition of use that would apply directly to the lot, the legal parcel, which the brewery is on. So if the zoning wide was of interest council, that would not be applied as a condition of use. It would be applied within the M1 zone it would be not a site specific condition of use. It would be a condition of use that would apply to everyone.
Thank you. We got a question or comment from Councilor Steer, and then we've got Councilor Sawyer.
Maybe if it's in relation to this, maybe go ahead and then my comments related to this.
Just
Okay.
my comment is, and maybe for clarity for Councillor Sloman, I'm in favor of site specific because it means that we won't have to have a public hearing because we won't be changing the general zoning. So this would just be talking about the brewery's lounge, or sorry, what was the term? Accessory lounge use. Yes.
Okay, looking at council, is everybody in favor or amenable to me calling the question for the first recommendation, then going on to the site specific waiting for hearing ability? Councilor Steer, you were going to make a comment?
Yeah, I just maybe make a quick comment and maybe we could proceed in that way. And it's more a comment on the report and the information within the report. I don't have a specific question, but I did want to point out there were a couple of things in the report that I did want to bring to your attention. There was two. In the report, staff recommends relying on the LCRB oversight for regulatory and service area. I think it's important that the district plays a role in that. The LCRB is not typically in the process of including all the social implications that are related to that we have. We're also in the process of a community alcohol strategy, where I think it would be the appropriate place for us to be having those conversations, and then we can make better informed decisions around these reports. The other piece of the report that I'd just like to bring to the attention is under the report, there was under economic and social impacts. Staff did an excellent job of extolling the benefits of the brewery and the social values that are related to that community gathering space. But it did neglect to have the conversation around the social impacts that are related to the consumption of alcohol. Once again, we're going to be going through a community alcohol strategy that will clearly articulate those social implications around that, which we've been told by our medical health officer are some of the #1 public health and safety concerns in our region. So I think it would be important to have that included in that economic and social impact when bringing these reports forward. And we'll have that opportunity when in the completion of the community alcohol strategy, so that you'd have a more informed document to be able to relate to that. So I just wanted to make that comment because it did become apparent to me within that report.
I've made a note to include it in the first reading.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and read from the chair that staff be authorized to proceed with further review of the zoning amendment application for 691 Way. Second by Councilor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? Unopposed, motion is carried. And I'm going to move from the chair that the public hearing be waived, and that you got that up there?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You can give it to
Jamie,
me.
if I may get the presentation back up.
I mean, I can make it up.
That's what you were just doing.
I didn't actually see the recommendation. For it.
Be the first.
Okay, great. Then I'll move from the chair that the requirement to hold a public hearing be waived in accordance with section 464.2 of the LGA. No,
That's
no, this is doesn't actually have a full description in the recommendation. Do we need one? This would be an and that.
Only the first one.
With that, with the
With the first one.
With section, yeah, it just doesn't have the
I see.
691 industrial way. We just have to, hold on, it's a process question, guys. Just back up here, just back up. It just needs a little preamble to that recommendation. Because it is at this time, it's actually an and that. So let's go with 691 industrial way. Go back to the thank you, there we go. That the requirement to hold a public hearing be waived regarding the application for 691 industrial way zoning amendment in accordance with section 464.2 of the LGA. Sufficient? Okay, seconder, Councillor Thomas. Any further comments?
I just have a quick comment through the chair. In terms of the waiving of the public hearing, through the process, would there be an information session? Typically, when we waive a public hearing, there is an opportunity instead of a formalized public hearing. Would there be an information session that we could request or that would be available? And then there's two parts to this.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. So there is an opportunity to hold a public information session, but effectively it serves the same function as a public hearing. What we would do is distribute notice. So the applicants would be required to erect a notice of an application sign on the property, as well as notification would go out to 60 meters of the property to affected or adjacent properties. And then we would provide opportunity for comment from those public notifications.
Thank you. And then follow just the other piece through the process for a second, and there's always the opportunity for public to engage in comments at the beginning of a council session. So if somebody did feel inclined with that particular agenda item when it came up, they have the opportunity at that time as well to comment on the agenda item.
Thank you for the question, through the chair. So the legislation has changed slightly. So in the situation where we waive a public hearing, there is an ability to provide comment up until third reading. But after third reading in meeting procedures bylaw, I believe that it cites that no further information can change. So any public input at that point, public could provide input, but we wouldn't be able to change the application fundamentally.
Right, understood. Yeah, just the opportunity for the public to engage at any time in comment and item through, as we saw this.
Any further comments from council before I call the question?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
A little off topic. Does the applicant plan to make any changes to the existing outdoor seating area, or is it going to continue as it is?
Thank you for the question, through the chair. So there is no proposal at this time to change the seating arrangement. It's currently being regulated by occupant load and their licensing. It's a pretty strict area. Not to say that there wouldn't be an opportunity for them to change the configuration in any way. That being said, it would be negligible given they're already at that near that 10%. So if anything, there might be an opportunity to include more seating inside, but given the current configuration, again, that would likely be a negligible number of seats.
as well as the building itself, like I mentioned, would be sort of capped by that 10%.
Yeah, the only reason I asked was we've just gone through 2 years of coming up with an accessibility plan. And although we can't insist on anything, it would be nice to see one of the picnic tables made wheelchair accessible or something like that.
Good comment, I'll be sure to include that as well.
Okay, we're in the motion, so all I have to do is call the question. Maybe what we can do is I'm just gonna acknowledge that we're gonna break from motion convention a little bit to allow you to take that that comment on accessibility. Okay, all in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Okay, 10.2. Actually, can we have I'm gonna call a question of privilege, 5-minute break. I want to do a sound check for Councilor Sloan. I want to make sure she's able to hear everything. You can't hear? Is it getting better? Is it better now, or is it just directional when we talk?
Yeah, it's just directional. I can hear the speaker fine. I can hear mayor and council fine as long as you're talking up. But it's when people seem to be talking from the stands that I can't always hear.
The second time we've had this comment, we're not reconvening yet, but the second time, maybe we can. Somebody look at the actual microphone. Is that it right there? Where is the microphone?
That little disc with the white circle.
Yeah, there's one there, there's one there. Okay.
And then I did have some weird loud buzz happen twice. I don't know if it was my computer or if it's the audio.
Okay, maybe Councilor Sloan, just if you can't hear, then let me know right away. I think it's imperative that you're able to hear everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful. We're reconvening. Carry on. 1.2.
My second presentation this evening, I'm going to give you a brief overview on the housing agreement bylaw. This presentation is for first, second, and third reading of bylaw number 1357. So this proposal is the applicants, which Pacific Sands Beach Resort at 1421 Sycamore Highway, enter into a housing agreement to ensure that the new buildings that they are proposing to construct are used for employee purposes only. This will include two fundamental pieces. One is that the changes to the previous housing agreement, and that is that housing unit will include trailers and buildings. The previous housing agreements on file were on title. Only accommodated the trailer buildings, the trailers. And then we've also included an updated site plan to include the new proposed buildings and structures. So just a little bit of history. This took a little bit of investigation. This property has been subject to two previous housing agreements. The first one was applied to a select number of trailers. A few years later, they added a couple more trailers. So we needed to ensure that the housing agreement was in place to cover the new additions. At that point, it probably would have been an appropriate time to amend the current housing agreement, but the approach that was taken was to apply a new housing agreement. So that's why there's two. Should this one receive further advancement or final approval, we would be looking at sort of capturing all of the housing, employee housing currently on site with the one agreement, the one site plan. So pending the construction, the completion of the construction, we would want to release the covenants that are currently on title and repeal the bylaws that are associated just to clean it all up for a matter of record. So we're maintaining some of the highlights from the previous agreement in that the qualified tenant is maintained. So that's employees of Pacific Sands Beach Resort and their subsidiaries, depending on their corporate names, their partners or immediate family members. We've included no established rent. So this is a housing agreement, again, is just to secure employee housing, ensure the tenure of that building, not necessarily to regulate the rental of that building. The overall sort of intent is to ensure that it's not used for tourist accommodation, primarily because they're seeking this housing agreement to benefit from the DCC reduction that is offered as part of the employee housing construction. So as mentioned, there is a benefit of a balance of benefit. The owner will receive the DCC reduction, and then the District of Tofino will secure employee housing for locally employed local residents employed in Tofino, albeit it will be site specific. So just a matter of process, we do require 2 meetings to adopt a housing agreement bylaw. And so that's what I'm putting forward today for first to third reading. And pending approval, we would then require a follow-up meeting for adoption. And then once adopted, we would have to move through the LTSA registration process to secure that on title. Once on title, it runs with the land and it acts as a contract between the district and the landowners. So staff's recommendation today is to introduce as well as read a first, second, and third time bylaw 1357.
Thank you, Steve. Comments, let's questions from council for clarity. Mr. Master.
One of your slides said providing accommodation for residents. But don't you mean providing accommodation for employees of Pacific Sands?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I suppose that once they're employees of Pacific Sands, they would be considered residents, but you're right, that is a.
That's a step. They should live in. Well, that would be. And come out 5 days a week.
That's a good consideration, actually. There will be a requirement for a tenancy agreement, but we didn't look into sort of the provisions of that tenancy agreement, sort of left it in the hands of the business owner to regulate how they want to manage those units. There is a provision in there for excluding the use of short term. So any sort of residency that fell below 30 days, I think would be considered a short term tenancy. So that might be caught in that document process. But I can look into that for you and provide more clarity if you require.
Thank you.
Any further questions for clarity? Mr. Anderson.
It doesn't really impact my support of it, but what wasn't clear in the report to me is if they're falling within their densities, but are they actually adding housing or creating more units overall? And is there room for them to create even more within their density? Just wondering.
Good question through the chair. So the property does benefit from C5 zoning, which is quite an expansive zone, if you will. So I haven't looked at the density through this application, but I believe that they do have the ability to construct more gross accommodation as well as more staff housing. To answer your question about whether they'd be adding more units, they will be in a surplus of units from what I understand. There is a proposal to remove some of the trailers, but there are some trailers that will remain. So I'm not sure if what the offset actually is, but there will be a net.
It's not strictly replacement of units then. Okay.
And just a follow-up, if I may, there is a proposal for 3 relatively large buildings. And it's my understanding that the intent is to build them all at once, but they may be constructed in a phased sort of approach, depending on water availability and such.
Okay. Other comments? Just a question for clarity. This is really just about the housing agreement, the construction. All right, if there's no further comments or questions from council, then would somebody like to use the
Like the District of Tofino Housing Agreement bylaw number 1357/2026 be introduced and read a first, second, and third time.
Second by Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion carried. Okay, we have a series of bylaws for adoption. Councilmember volunteer to read the first one if there are no questions or comments. Councillor Thomas.
I move that District of Tofino Paid Parking Reserve Fund Amendment Bylaw number 1340.01/2025 be adopted.
Councillor Steer, all in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Carry on if you'd like.
For item 11.2, I move that District of Tofino Municipal Ticket Information System Amendment Bylaw number 1088.10/2025 be adopted.
Second by Councillor Steer. All in favor? None opposed, motion carried.
11.3, I move that District of Tofino Bylaw Notice Enforcement and Dispute Adjudication System Amendment Bylaw number 1107.20/2025 be adopted.
Here, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
That District of Tofino Municipal Security Condition System amendment bylaw number 1088.11.5 be adopted.
Here, on favor.
11.5, I move that District of Tofino bylaw notice enforcement and dispute adjudication system amendment bylaw number 1107.21/2025 be adopted.
Master of each two at that time, Councilor Steer, all in favor? No opposed, motion is carried. Unfinished business, do we have any business initiated by council members? Seeing none. Then we're up for question period. Ms. Larson, anybody signed up for question period?
Mayor Law, we don't currently have anyone signed up, so I'll do an open call now for anyone who wishes to sign up to ask a question about anything on the agenda. If you're in attendance in the gallery, you can raise your hand and be added to the list. I see we do have one person. So now I'll just do a call out for anyone who's attending virtually via Zoom. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do so by inputting your name, residential address, and which agenda item you'd like to ask a question about using the Q&A function. Calling once, calling twice, calling 3 times, no questions over Zoom, Mayor Law.
You can please use
The usual, the Arbor, and then 240 Campbell. I think we know each other. Unresolved issues. The question is about the water and the unresolved issues. Unresolved issue number 1. Why is the cost put onto the shoulders of a couple of dozen people? If there is an emergency and if something needs to be done, why do 24 people need to carry a huge cost? Question number 1.
Just for clarity, Guillermo, what cost are you talking about?
I'm talking about the cost of a change in property value. If you cannot build on a property, then it has a different value until you can build on it. And the plan says that I will be able to build in 2043. I read it from the plan. I have not heard any other plans since then.
I can make a couple comments on that. The 2043 comment is actually refers to the need to treat water. And that's the capacity for treating water. It's not about water. If I'm look over to so it's up my head. Actually, it's just for council anyway. So I'll get that
You
clarified.
can trust that I read all the stuff.
Yeah, I'll get that. It's a common misunderstanding about what that actually means.
Well, we can agree on what we understand. That's great.
And then the other comment, answer to your question, is that the water master plan clearly explains that we are deficient for water.
I'm not debating that.
Okay, so what happens is that it's not.
That wasn't my question.
Your question was why?
My question was, why do a couple of dozen people in Tofino have to suffer a huge change in their property rights and values for a period of more than 10 years, we'll call it? Why is it in any way justifiable by an authority such as the District of Tofino to create a situation where 0.something% of Tofino people get seriously hurt? Take my situation. I'll be dead. Just so you understand. So I'm not going away. Second question. How does this play into the fact that we know there will be 3 times the population by 2043? It won't happen on the 2042nd year. It's going to happen every year. 100 new mouths will want to drink water every year, starting today. It's illogical. So my question is, how is it possible to explain any logic in that?
I mean, I can try to explain for you the situation that we're in with water right now. Maybe give you some background information. You know, a couple of your comments, the question is A, we're deficient of water. B, we have the most efficient water system that I'm aware of for any municipality in BC based on our numbers. Well, you asked a question, so I'm gonna give you some background.
You can understand I'm emotional.
Yeah, I fully understand that. And so the point I'm gonna make is that we use 2,300 cubic meters of water at the height of summer.
We know the figures. Thank you.
Yeah. And so that means that we're being very, very, very well managed per capita water use, which means we don't have a lot of leeway to allow building beyond what we have to come up with.
Not disputed.
Right. So I guess the point is that it's not about stopping building. It's just not about. It's about managing the water. People can build right now, or they're working on it right now with staff to build, and staff are working on a policy.
2.43 meters left.
Just let me answer your question. Give you some background. Is that it's just a matter of water. So the point is that staff are working with people right now. We're looking at their own source water catchment, and staff are working on zoning or building bylaw changes that allow, hopefully will allow zoning catchment across the board. So, or water catchment. So it's not necessarily as bleak as that, and certainly there's some clarification needed about the 20. So thank you very much. Do you have a follow-up question?
Am I being cut off? I've got 10 minutes.
You have 2
You can
minutes.
cut me off if you like.
You have 2 minutes per person.
Just for clarity. Oh, do you want me to stop?
You can have one more question.
You didn't answer my previous question. It was, how does that play into the need for housing? There will not be any more buildings approved, but people are moving here all the time, 3 to 5%. You haven't answered my question. The two they don't add up. Can't build, people moving. Got nothing to do with water. The fact that people can't live.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not. Is it a comment or a question?
Was a question. How do you reconcile the fact that we know so many people are moving here with the fact that you've acted in ways to prevent buildings from being built? That's it.
Council, answer to that. I think we're pretty much.
Precisely through the limits to growth policy, it will slow development if there's no place to move to.
It stopped development.
Mr.
Can I finish answering your question?
I'm sorry,
To the best of my
I've lived here a long time.
You have to stop talking now.
Yeah, if you're not willing to listen to an answer as best as I can answer it, then I won't give you an answer. Thank you. The limits to growth policy is trying to balance what water and what risk we have remaining in the system to allow for as much targeted growth in Tofino, targeted specifically at housing, and particularly affordable housing. So it will allow for some growth. Some allocation has been already granted, which will allow for some buildings. But yes, we're going to hit a wall where it stops. And I don't think we can continue to grow. That's why it's called limits to growth. So your idea of it growing and keeping on growing without water isn't going to happen. We won't be building at some point until we have more water. So that is what limits to growth is telling us. So there it is.
All right,
Oh, that's it.
you've decided that we're not growing. Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. All right, we're coming to the end. Anybody else want to step up to the podium and answer the question? Oh. See none, okay. Thank you for that answer, Councillor Anderson. Okay, well, moving on to the closed session. Would somebody like to move us into the closed?
Amended.
Oh, I have the amended one. Actually, I don't have the amended one, but I have K written down there. So I'll move
I
it.
don't know.
I'll move from the chair. That the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91 ACIL and K and 92 BIB2 of the community charter to discuss matters related to 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. 91 I guess it is, or 1. Receive a device that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 91L, municipalities, municipal officers and employees. Discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures, and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under section 98, annual municipal report. 92B, I'll go back to 91K in a sec. The consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations, one, between the municipality and a provincial government, or the federal government, or both, or between a provincial government and federal government, or both, and third party. 2, between the municipality and another local government, or between another local government and a third party. And I have or, nothing else after that, so I'm not bringing them up after that, but, and 91K, which is.
Negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of council could reasonably expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Thomas. Any further comments? All in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Great. We're going to take a break here.